Ladies and gentlemen, we're just going in hot right now. It is family best ball season here. We've got Coop, we've got Britt, we've got Colby Conway, of course, fantasy alarm crew here. Colby, my man, how's it going?
Doing
Cutting
well.
your
Ask me about after round four. See how my team looks. Right now, everything is good,
Yeah.
but it's just first round, so we'll see after round four. But right now, doing well.
Yeah, we have one guy, Icy Through, a good friend and a Fantasy Alarm member who I didn't think was showing up tonight. And he decided to join via the link last minute, which means Kevin Tompkins isn't in the draft today. He will be available to give his commentary on every pick, though, Kev. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna be because of that. I'm gonna be unnecessarily brutal to everybody in the draft because
As you
I'm not
should.
participating.
As you should. All right, so first round is up and running. Looks pretty standard for the most part. Travis Kelsey always goes somewhere in the first round. Where the running backs go is a mix. Bijan goes between 4 and 7. You guys see anything that jumps out? First rounds have been pretty standard these days for these drafts.
Nothing really jumps out. Bijan is always gonna. I think his cap of where he's gonna creep out is gonna be 104. I can't see him jumping over CMC, Chase, Jefferson, any of the other guys there. I mean, if you're feeling froggy, you can take him anywhere, honestly. But like a tournament play or even like a standard best ball, typically 104 is like his cap. But other than that, nothing really jumps out.
Yeah, I
All right.
think, I mean, if you want to differentiate yourself, like in a tournament situation, I think that he could jump, like we talked about on the stream yesterday. But in some of these smaller drafts, like it seems like you're a little bound by ADP just to not get too crazy.
Yeah. Colby, you took Cooper Cup in the first round. Not at all worried about Stafford. You're still on the Cup wagon?
Yeah, I think so. It's a good spot for him too. And I mean, we're only a year removed from an insane year, just an unlucky kind of injury, and really just a down year overall, maybe a little bit of a hangover there for the Rams. So bounce back this year. We've seen him produce. Why not? Really, I was hoping Kelsey would fall to 6. That was the play. Now I got to wait for tight end and just get Dalton Schultz a couple rounds. Well, maybe like 8 to 9 rounds later and start the Texans stack, because that is the formula to win best ball.
As long as I can have Tank Dell, I'll let you have as many Texans as you want.
I mean, if I get the other 6, that's fine. I'll take it.
You'll give me Tank. All right.
That's fine.
We've
That's
got
a deal.
compromise. See, fellas, this is how we work it out. You just
You guys are
compromise.
real angels. Let's see
Yeah.
how sweet you'll be as we move through this draft.
Oh, it'll
Little
get bad. My
Fun
halo
story,
will
by
get
the
tilted.
way. Fun story, by the way. The $1 million regular season winner of Best Ball Mania 3 did have a Texan stack. So just want to throw that out there.
That's
It had
what I'm
Davis
saying.
Mills, 18th round pick.
Ooh, the Texans stack. Davis Mills. I mean, sad to see him go. I was kind of rooting for the guy. Third round pick. Very rarely do we get a third round pick that excels. You got Russell Wilson after that. Another Texan is the second best, Matt Schaub. So not a lot of third round pick guys. But hey, when you get that high a pick in the draft, you got to strike while the iron's hot. So I'm excited. And the move by the Texans this year, going 2-3, that I'll tell you, this draft, the NFL draft's starting to look more and more like Twitter every day. Just, trade this guy for a quarterback. I'll just pick second and third because I can't decide. Like, I love seeing that kind of stuff. What do you think, Colby? Are you in on it? Are you fired up?
Such a fun 12 minutes. I mean, it was just exceptional. I mean, what a rush that was. It was a shame because you look forward to the draft, and I mean, my night was over by 8. Well, they make them take 10 minutes for the first pick, even though we all know who they're taking. But from like 8:11 to like 8:23, what a wild ride that was. But it'll be good. And I was on the Davis Mills bandwagon coming into last year. I thought he earned the chance to earn the job. And all I said was make it clear that you're the guy, make it clear you're not the guy heading into 2023. So that way in the draft, they could do what they needed to do. And unfortunately, he made it clear one way or another and made it, and then week 18 happened, but we don't have to bring that up. It all worked out in the end. That's all I'm going to say. It all worked out.
Oh, yeah. I switched you and me because you're our guest of honor. So when we put up notifications like Toronto Dave here, I'll cover my face. People see enough of me. We got to get Colby up top there. So.
You're too.
I just took a Tony Pollard share, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe the first time I've drafted him in the last 3 years. I have been watching from afar as, the metrics kings and queens of the world have loved what they've seen hypothetically for Tony Pollard. Like what could be when it does go well. And last year we saw a glimpse of what that might look like. Now that Zeke Elliott is gone, the guy that was taking the goal line touches and some of the pass touches, I'm in on Tony Pollard. I got on at the last stop before the wagon finally truly took off. Just took Tony Pollard in the second round. How do you got? You guys proud of me for not having take lock on Tony Pollard here?
Look, if you think you're getting a deck chair on the Tony Pollard cruise ship with me and Jacob Sanderson,
I know where I am. I'm on the Titanic. I'm down in the Titanic with the guys, like, you know, with like the dirty vest and the hats. I know if the ship goes down, I'm going to be the first one to drown. I know that. You know, you guys got the lifeboats, but I'm just saying, I did get on the ship. I might have had to win my ticket in a game of blackjack or whatever old timey poker Leonardo DiCaprio used to get on the ship, but I am officially on the ship, and I just took Tony Pollard in the second round.
Can we talk about Derrick Henry being still available in kind of the middle of the third with that week 17 Houston correlation? That's a little strange to me. What do you guys think?
You had to bring it up.
Push down the dusty running back.
There it is.
Henry against Tennessee. Come on. I love it.
You're going to hear that all summer.
I've been hearing it for years, Kevin. It's old at this point. It's just a guaranteed 200. His yards shouldn't start counting against Houston until he's after 200. That's when it should count. So really, he only had 23 rushing yards in one of those games, if you ask me. That's
just handicap him.
It's crazy.
It's a free square. That's what it is.
Vegas continued. They tried to set the line hard enough. Each time they moved it up to where it was getting ridiculous. I thought it was ridiculous when they're setting it well over 100, and then he had 200, and then now they're making it impossible to bet on. Where it's like they set it like 140, and then it's like minus 200 to bet it. Like they're just like tired of losing money to that prop bet. Yeah, one thing I love to see, Kangas in the chat being upset about getting sniped. That's long time, I think lifetime fantasy alarm member Kangas. Anytime we can get him riled up, I love that. Him and Scott Frankel and the boys, shout out.
Look, I just want to say one thing. That ice through, that was supposed to be my spot. He went running back. I don't condone that kind of tomfoolery in a draft that I am on stream with. I do appreciate 101 though.
Technically, if we're being technical here, Icy was supposed to be in and Sellers was supposed to be out. We got Sellers in late. So Sellers is the one that took your spot. What do you feel about his spot? He also took two running backs. People here.
Yeah, Sellers stole Gibbs from me. How does he know that I want Gibbs, I wonder?
He knows. He knows.
It's not like I talk about him in my sleep or anything.
Yeah. So, okay.
Yeah. I will say though about like just stacking in general. I mean, you'll see that certainly in tournament play, but like in a self-contained league, I think it's certainly a lot less important to be able to get those stacks. I mean, if you're bullish on an offense, like go wild, but I think it's just ultimately less important in a self-contained league than it is in tournament play.
I fully agree. You have to treat them differently. And same thing with like the week 17 correlations, so much more important in those tournaments. We talked about it today on the Fantasy Alarm Quick Out Pod that the running backs, if you look at ADP, it used to be where the first round of every draft was just running backs. That's when I started. And if you I looked at 2007 ADP, the entire first round was running backs except for Peyton Manning, because Peyton Manning was coming off like a crazy year. But it's like now you don't even get through the top 12 running backs in the first 3 rounds. In this draft we did, but ADP has 12 in the first 3 rounds. Colby, do you think that people are overdoing it with the zero RB or even just drafting wide receivers heavily? Or do you think this is a new normal with the split backfields?
It's the new normal answer. It's the new normal. We got to take after what the league is doing. I mean, that's what we're seeing. It's a pass happy league at this point. We're trying to get the points that way in PPR. That's where it's golden. I mean, think about it, in the old days, the pass catching running back was like almost like the fallback option in fantasy. It's like, oh, I missed out on the bell cows. Let me get this guy who maybe goes 5 for 50 through the air out of the backfield. But nowadays, those guys are money. And now we're looking for these guys earlier on. And there's so many receivers. I mean, just look at like the draft now, and even like 2 years ago, you're not seeing Derrick Henry in the 3rd round. You're not seeing even like Josh Jacobs in the 3rd round. Like there's running backs that you can get now that are as about as close as you can get to a bell cow in nowadays football in like the 4th and 5th round. Like if Gibbs cements that, it's a guy in the 3rd round that you're getting, and there's still plenty of running backs on the board. So this is the new normal. It's wide receiver early. And if you like to wait on running backs, you're a lot better off than you were a couple years ago.
Yeah, and it's funny. Austin Eckler is the perfect example of the guy you're talking about, where he refuses to have 1,000 yards rushing. Like he won't do it. He'll be the running back 1 overall and not get 1,000 yards rushing. So, and Alvin Kamara has never had it either. So it really doesn't matter. We've seen the numbers from Scott Barrett. He did the math a couple of years ago on how much more valuable a target is than a carry. So you're right. It's that kind of league nowadays. But we have to keep in the back of our mind, there are still running backs that can just flat out win leagues. Like it can easily happen. Christian McCaffrey, any of these guys can come out. Saquon Barkley still within the range of outcomes for a guy like that, where they can just flat out score over 400 fantasy points and just win the league.
Yeah, and now we're starting to see a trickle-down effect, too, when we get later in drafts. The running back dead zone that we've heard, been talking about for the last few years, it's almost non-existent. And it's funny because Justin Herzig, who put out a tweet today about he won, Sam Sherman and Justin Herzig also put out a tweet about now it's a wide receiver dead zone where you're taking all these running backs. You've got the Brandon Cooks, Jahan Dotson, Zay Flowers, Michael Thomas, Cortland Sutton. Like those are like almost the dead zone running backs of 2023, because you still got guys like James Conner, Alex Madison, Javonte Williams, who now we've heard that might be ready for training camp. So you could see his stock rise a little bit in best ball. AJ Dillon, these aren't your typical like running back dead zone running backs. They're like Alexander Madison is now on the Twitter cover on the Minnesota Vikings official Twitter. So it looks like Dalvin Cook might be phased out. So
can we talk about how savage that is, by the way? You don't go with Jefferson. You just want to make it known that y'all are cutting ties with Dalvin Cook. Like that was a savage move.
Just put Jordan Addison on there and just fully lean into it, you cowards.
Yeah. Now I wrote an article this week on that. So it used to be the June 1 deadline was this big ruthless thing for a long time, especially when I was younger. It was like Black Friday, like people were getting cut left and right. And then they allowed you to do one guy you could designate early as a June 1 cut. And now it's 2 guys. I don't think June 1 really means what a lot of people think it is. If the Vikings wanted to just flat out cut the guy, they could have already done that, right? Yeah. The same thing with the only 2 teams that didn't, the only 2 teams that used both of their designations were the Browns and the Cardinals. So those teams, I wouldn't be surprised if they did a little June 1 cut or here or there. But the rest of these teams, they could have already done it. Where it does matter is trading. You can't trade a guy with post June 1 designation. So if they wanted to get the benefits for DeAndre Hopkins, which the Cardinals already used that twice, or Dalvin Cook, this is where we might see it. We saw it with Julio Jones in 2021. The week after June 1, I'm very interested. That is where a trade could pop off or nothing could happen. But keep your eyes out for that.
And shocker here, I snagged Treylon Burks again.
Are you at 100% on Treylon Burks?
I'm pretty damn close.
He's plus full mast on Treylon Burks.
You plus Sellers plus Howard are probably 100% on Treylon Burks.
I think so.
Howard gets in these now, and he just looks around to see who's in here and just creeps around seeing who he can piss off. Like Colby, if he was in this one, I guarantee he'd be drafting Nico Collins and all the boys just because, dude.
He does it in baseball too. It's a trend. It's a trend.
The spite sniper.
I can picture his face just sitting back being like,
That's exactly what I think.
Exactly.
You gotta clip that. That's spot on.
That's exactly it, dude. Like, hey, it's entertainment, dude. Hey, that's showbiz, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Let me see what we got going on here. I'm just looking through this draft board right now, seeing if I find. I mean, still, it's these quarterbacks that are just 3 in the second round. I mean, that's pretty standard now, but I don't know. I have a feeling that they're going to creep down maybe into the 2-3 turn, just a little bit, and into the third. I just still think it's rich for those 3. I know what advantages they provide you, obviously, with the rushing, and then, Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, but yeah, that's just still a little bit too rich for me. I'm going to have very little of all 3 of those guys. What do you think, Colby?
Yeah, I mean, the top tier, I'm probably not going to get much of. The one I'm really liking to push up is Lamar. I think this is going to be an insane year for him. And if not, right now, looking at it, I know I'm the one who took Lamar, but I think the best value's got to be Herbert. I mean, where he went compared to those other guys, and if he goes off in this new offense that he's going to be a part of, I mean, that looks like an absolute steal. So, I mean, hindsight's 2020. If I could have waited, maybe a little bit different there. I do love Lamar. I think Lamar and Herbert and CJ Stroud are going to be the three quarterbacks that I have the most of here for 2023.
Yeah, it's interesting with the quarterbacks. I find in past years what I've done is I've done the very smart and classic move of not drafting one and thinking I'm going to get one I like later and then missing on them too. But this year, I just feel like they hang around for so long that it's not that hard to get the guys I like, or at least one of them. We'll see. I'm going to pass on QB here, and we'll test that strategy out, see if it works out. But I'm not finding myself scrambling as much as I have in past years. Once we get into, they're going to open up some super flex drafts and stuff coming up soon where the scramble is very much real. But for single QB, I feel like a lot of times I'm all right. Now, I want to ask you guys a post draft question that John and Pem and I have been talking about ADP and stuff for these guys. And a lot of times it doesn't update as quick as we would think. So there are some guys that still after the draft, they're probably going higher than they normally would. What guys are you kind of watching right now to see if their ADP is going to come down? For instance, me personally, I still like DK Metcalf. I think his ADP is going to come down a bit. So I'm kind of throwing a little caution tape around him, waiting to see where that settles. Who would you kind of put in that category where you still like the player, but we're still using ADP that might not account for the changes, right?
Kev, I'll let you answer this one because I just put out an article. Everybody knows my thoughts.
Yeah, there's a few. Like the Justin Fields, DJ Moore are like attached at the hip right now together, and that's really because in tournament play, those two are getting taken, at the turn, just to stack with each other. So I feel like I don't know if it's going to come down, but I feel like it should just a little bit certainly for Moore. I think he's about a round overpriced. Devontae Adams for me, I just with Jimmy G not throwing a deep ball since the Carter administration. I don't see how Devontae Adams gets there to the degree he got there last year, especially with a quarterback downgrade. I think he's probably a mid-second round guy who should be going right in line with like Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith there, kind of in that middle of the second round. So I don't want to pay the end of the first round, beginning of the second round price for him. If I'm going to do it, I want a discount.
I'm going to piggyback off it. Devontae Adams is the one for me too. If he's going to go where he's going, it's just not going to be there for me. I can't do another year of a Jimmy G receiver. It's just painful, stressful, every other word you want to use. I can't do it. Adams is the big one. And then kind of sifting it out a little bit. We obviously know Kelsey's tight end one. I want to see how things shake out with that like next tier of tight ends. Like, I mean, right now, like in this one, it went Andrews, Hawkinson, Kittle, pretty much as we expect. And then after those guys, like what ends up happening with this tier of everyone's favorite breakout for their rookie year and Kyle Pitts to Darren Waller and Dallas Goedert, like they went within 5 picks of each other. So for me, I like all three of them, some more than others. I'm almost interested to see as we start getting into camp and things start shaking out, which one of them falls a little bit and becomes the better value of those three. Because after that, it's a pretty, I hate to do it to Evan Ingram, but it is a sizable drop at tight end, unfortunately.
No, for sure. I mean, Ingram, the thing is, I don't get take lock like that when the situation changes. Like, if things were still good for Evan Ingram, I'd be in. But the situation has changed. I'm out on Evan Ingram at ADP. I know people hate to hear it because it's so much fun to just like root for those guys and have the memes and stuff. But we have to be realistic. Adding Calvin Ridley moves Ridley into the Zay Jones role. Zay Jones in the Marvin Jones role. That is very complicated for fantasy football. It's not ideal. The comments I hear from Calvin Ridley are good. The comments you just mentioned, Devontae Adams. I'm on the clock now, so I'll send this to you, Kev, because you're a Devontae Adams guy. How do you feel about those comments from him about Jimmy G and what they're planning to do over there?
Yeah, it's like he was sold a bill of goods, last year when he got traded to the Raiders, and now, almost everything has changed. I mean, brought in they got rid of Derek Carr, basically phased him out at the end of last year. Now they bring in Jimmy Garoppolo. It's clearly going to be a different kind of passing offense. The Raiders were third in explosive plays last year. Devontae Adams had 9 touchdowns of 20 plus air yards. Jimmy G threw 1 total touchdown of 20 plus air yards last season. So clearly something has to give.
Dude, okay. I probably should never mention on the stream that I'm going to try and wait on quarterbacks because immediately 3 trolls, including Sellers, obviously, the number 1 troll, took one. Britt took one who needed one. Hamburglar took his second quarterback, who was a guy I was hoping to get in Anthony Richardson. Still, I'm going to get a guy that I like here who was on my short list. J-Bro, I had him above both Kirk and Daniel Jones. I'm taking Tua here. So J-Bro could have taken my guy. He double tapped QB, didn't, but I like Tua. Geno, I would have been okay with, but you know, on John Mpemba, the quarterback whisperer, keeps talking about regression for Geno Smith, but when I look at it, he could be the same passing wise, and based on his rushing numbers, he probably should have had more rushing touchdowns than what he had won. Like most guys that have 300, 400, 500 rushing yards usually have a couple. So I don't see why Geno can't repeat. I don't know. Are you guys on board with the Geno wagon? Brady, are you drafting Geno Smith in any of your leagues?
I actually have as my second quarterback in a lot of leagues because I really like that Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, and then Geno's going as QB 16. Like he's just so cheap, and he finished so high last year. Even if he doesn't live up to ADP, if he just surpasses it and lands in that 10 to 12 area, like you've already returned so much value on him. So yeah, I'm about him.
Yeah, there you go, dude. Jack points out Geno Lockett stack. I personally think that Lockett's going to at least start the year playing a full snap share, and he might play the entire year playing that full snap share. You look at I always bring up the example of the Buccaneers. Chris Godwin, a 2nd-round pick, really good player. He couldn't beat out Tyler Lockett. I'm sorry, he couldn't beat out Deshaun Jackson early on. And it was Mike Evans and Deshaun Jackson. And then as Deshaun Jackson aged out and got hurt and eventually left, Chris Godwin took over. I see that. I love JSN long-term, but I wouldn't rule out DK Metcalf. I wouldn't rule out Tyler Lockett. DK Metcalf plays a totally different position than those two guys play anyway. Yep. He's in the Mike Evans chair, in my opinion, where I don't think his snaps are going to be affected. We'll see what happens with the targets.
And I just got my Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson stack. Cha-ching. I love that gap in stacking.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is with Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, and Tua, they are truly close. I mean, there is some concern about the concussion, although usually concussions, there's a short-term turnover. Kirk Cousins, always rock solid passing, and Daniel Jones ran for 700 yards last year. I mean, I think we're kind of, it doesn't look as good as when Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson run, but I mean, 700 yards is 700 yards, right?
True story. We got one more guy here who's in this draft. Our good friend Jorge Martin. Let's bring him on in here. You guys.
Yeah, let's get him on. Colby, you hanging out for a bit, or you taking off? How are you feeling?
I'll make this pick, and then I'm going to ride off into the sunset. I only have one Houston Texan, so I feel like I'm going to get chastised by the Houston community for only having one at this point.
I was going to say, you're letting them down.
You're so
I know.
far off.
That's why I don't think I can be on camera too long, or else they're going to come and they're going to be knocks at my door, and I won't be able to do anything. So
they'll shut this whole show down. I think I've already got a few reports on YouTube that you only have one, dude. We're going to get flagged on this one.
I know. My apologies. I better leave now, but.
Jorge, mi amigo, how are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm so good. Muchas gracias for inviting me. This is awesome. Oh God, Britt, I think this is our first time on a stream together. I'm so such a pleasure to meet you. Un gran placer, as they would say in Spanish.
I love that. That sounds so beautiful. I don't know what you just said, but I appreciate it.
A great pleasure. A great pleasure.
Pleasure's mine. Thanks for coming on with us.
Oh no, this is awesome. This is awesome. Though I kept getting sniped on what I wanted to do. I wanted to try and do a Kelsey Mahomes stack in Coop's honor because I know how much he loves the tight ends, and I told him that's the only way I'll go tight end early. And but I got missed it by two spots, and then I thought I might get Devonta Smith coming back after getting Jalen Hurts, and that one didn't work either. So this is a tough crowd, but I'm having a great time.
Dude, it's always a good time when you're here, Jorge, man. The thing is with this fantasy community is that there are people that are super smart. Then there are people that are just really pleasant, and then there are people that are just really funny. and you happen to be all three, which that's a beautiful thing. It's like I follow some people, and sometimes I'm like, damn, this guy's such a jerk, but he's got pretty good stats, so I have to keep following him. You know what I mean? Or you make it easy. That's me. I'm just a big jerk, and people are like, he's got the tight end stuff. So
I love it though.
You make it easy, buddy. So appreciate you joining us for this draft. I'm realizing pretty quickly that I'm going to need to have some running backs if I'm going to compete in this league.
Give us a little scroll down, Coop. By the way,
what are we looking at? Oh yeah,
scrolling down just a little bit because we're.
Sorry, man. I'm used to you doing everything, Kev. That's so.
I got sniped just being in the draft.
That's Icy, dude. Shout out Icy. The thing is, Icy's the man. He's probably just running late today, so we're cool, Icy. But
look, we're men and women of the people. We got to get him in.
Yeah. Just anyone out there in the future that wants to jump in these drafts, I know they fill pretty quick. If you're not in by 7:30, we got to put somebody else in. So Icy jumping in at 7:31, that was a pretty big wrench in the plans, Icy. But hey, we still love you, brother. We'll see if you win this league, then we'll have to ban you next year. But for now, you're still cool.
So Jorge, looking at your draft here, scroll up just a little bit, Coop. I'm gonna keep asking you to scroll.
Yeah.
With Kelsey, Hurts, Najee Harris, top 3. So I know. Obviously you went on a big wide receiver run. How do you feel about, if you're going to grab these, the onesie positions early, your ability to kind of recover with the running backs and wide receivers, a little bit in the middle rounds and then filling out later? Like, how do you feel about the depth that's there in those middle rounds to be able to get a wide receiver and running back group?
I always feel good about getting wide receivers a little bit later. I've been going wide receiver heavy a lot early, but the thing that the Kelsey was too tempting right there. I was going to either go Kelsey or Bijan at that point, but I thought, you know what, Kelsey's too tempting. Grabbing that one, and then I could just forget about tight end for a while is going to be good. Maybe I've been kind of forgetting tight end and going and grabbing grabbing guys like Dalton Kincaid and Tyler Higbee, who I think is going to have an underrated good season this year. And then, some guy, maybe like a Luke Musgrave later on. And I'm not just shining apples here because he's a Packer and I know how much of a Packer fan you are, grabbing those guys. But in this one, grabbing those guys and not having to think about it, knowing that Jalen Hurts is probably going to be 20 plus points almost every week. But there's some guys there. I've been playing around with some strategies. A big thing for me this year is grabbing the quarterback early, grabbing one of the elite quarterbacks. And it's probably about 7 or 8 that I've got targeted at that point. I'll tell you what, Jorge, I've been a notorious Tyler Higbee disliker. Hard to say hater though. I've search my username and Tyler Higbee on Twitter and see what comes up. But I will tell you this, as I said earlier, I refuse to have take lock. I will stick to my process. And the fact that he has such a clear path to being a potential top 2 target on the team this year means that Tyler Higbee is a guy that now for the first time ever I am drafting. And in this particular format, Tyler Higbee's not so bad. Last year, he technically finished tight end 6, though he was completely unstartable for huge chunks of the season, right? Like, he was putting up literal zeros. He was playing a 90% snap share and not touching the football, which was bonkers. Or he would touch it but not catch it. But in this particular format, you don't have to worry about that at all, right? Like, it's not a problem. The 3 touchdown games against the Falcons a couple of years ago, you get all these games, right? Like, you get the good games. You don't have to worry about the bad games. So this particular format is one where I will draft Tyler Higbee. I'll hold my nose while I do it, but I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, I enjoy the memes. I enjoy the, having trends, but I'll go against it if the numbers are there. Right. So I'm with you on Tyler Higbee this year. Can you believe it or not? Believe it or not, Britt? Kev, can you believe it? Kev,
I honestly can't.
Kev, how many years have you known me? And I will continue to make fun of Tyler Higbee whenever he has bad games. But I'm just saying, the numbers are the numbers, man.
I've never known you to not throw shade at Tyler Higbee.
It's just so funny. And he also had that hate crime, so I feel justified in doing it. You know what I mean? So I'm okay with it. I'm okay.
The amount of personal growth you've shown just in this 29 minutes and 42 seconds with Tony Pollard and now Tyler Higbee.
Well, I didn't draft.
I love this journey for you.
Yeah, you know what, dude? This is how we learn. This is how we grow.
I would love this journey a little more if we just hit a scroll on the draft board, though, too.
It's a coast to coast journey. I love it.
It is. It is.
From sea
So
to shining sea.
shout out to Sellers for. That's the thing. I would love. We had to put Sellers in this because he's always the guy ready to rock and roll. I wish Icy got in and Kev was in because he went and took Dalton Kincaid and Chigakonkwo back to back, well above ADP.
He's the biggest troll.
Really grinds my dude. He doesn't. He'll. He is paying $5 price of admission to just be a huge jerk.
Jorge also getting called out by Kangas in the chat too. I'm assuming that's about Roshan Johnson.
Oh, good.
Yeah, who took?
You know that
exactly.
you're drafting well when people are like, "I don't want to draft with you."
That's
again.
a badge of honor, if anything.
Now, who took Kendre Miller? Let me, because he was gone there. I
got sniped on him.
That's Hamburglar, and that's a good pick. Hamburger's made a lot of picks I like. The Kendre Miller one. So for me, if you look at that tier, going in the 12th round of these drafts, only 2 running backs are going in that round on average: Kendre Miller and Roshan Johnson. So you kind of got to pick between the two. I like the idea that Kendre Miller is going to a team that doesn't have a mobile quarterback, a guy that dumps it down to the running back, that isn't going to vulture the touchdowns. Roshan with the Bears, he has to deal with Justin Fields and all the nonsense that comes with that. On the flip side, Roshan has probably the easier path to being the actual starting running back on the team.
Yep.
So when you guys look at it, like if you're in that round 12 and you got to have a running back, Jorge, I'll throw this at you. Those are the 2 guys that are going there. And the ADPs are like, it's like they're a full like 17 picks before the next running backs. Like it's crazy how they're so isolated in that group. Which one are you taking? If you got to pick one, Jorge, Roshan or Kendre?
I think it's Roshan. I just did a live stream last week talking about the running back landing spots, and one of the things that was really brought that came to mind, it was a Brett Whitefield at Fantasy Points, and he pointed out Roshan, of the 3 guys between Deontay Foreman and Mr. Scampers, ¿cómo estás? Roshan, Khalil Herbert, and Deontay Foreman. Roshan is the only one who has pass blocking chops. So I think that's going to keep him on the field in 3rd down. Maybe he'll get some check downs, but he's also the big lumbering back. So that's why I like him a lot.
Yeah. Can we normalize for getting fantasy points for pass blocking?
We do. I swear we do, because look around. Philip Lindsay had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Why didn't he succeed? It's because he couldn't pass block. Why did Damian Pierce was an incredible runner, and they felt the need to bring in Devin Singletary, a guy I just drafted? Why? Because he was on PFF outside the top 100 running backs.
And now we're getting all these negative weeks from Antonio Gibson because he's never pass blocked a day in his life.
Exactly. So that's exactly right. We do get the points from the pass blocking. It just doesn't translate. And
they're like,
that's why you need nerds like us. Pass blocking is keeping us in business.
Fantasy points by osmosis.
Right. Because if it was as easy as whoever just had 1,000 yards last year, then this game would be easy. That's why you need people that are willing to peel back the layers. You need the Jorges of this world that are willing to look at what the hell is going on behind the scenes and predict the future. Because if we were just drafting the past, then we'd all have Preston Williams on every team.
Right. We are not drafting. We're not playing 22 fantasy football in 2023. I can't believe I had to say that the other day on Twitter, but I did. By the way,
at me, Kev.
Yeah, right.
And I'll tell you from doing all those shows with Simon and JL and those guys, and Jorge, you've done them too. Trying to play 2022 fantasy football and remember what the hell happened, it's not even that easy. Like I swear, we should do it one day. Just be like, I'll trick you guys. Jorge, next time you come on, I'm going to say we're going to do a best ball draft, but what we're actually going to do a 2022 draft, and we'll find out who won the league right after the draft is over. And I bet you that would be hard. That would be a tough league, would it not? After the first couple rounds,
I want to do that, and I'm going to get sniped out of that league.
Yeah, well, you'll think I'm going to do 2022, and we're going to do like 2014, and then we'll see who really knows what's going on.
Oh, man. 2014, that would be, I'm trying to think.
Adrian Peterson. Was that his comeback year after the ACL?
I think so. No. The comeback year after the ACL was earlier. It was like 2010, 2011.
Mm-hmm.
But
there you go. That
was like Julio.
Was it the David Johnson year?
The
when
Odell
David Johnson
Beckham
finally broke out.
I think Johnson was 15.
Okay.
Oh man, this draft would be a nightmare, dude. I
That
would
was
love
close.
Pullman. Yeah,
That would be a blast, though.
that would be funny, man.
Even going back 5 years. I mean, well, everybody would be grabbing Patrick Mahomes.
Todd Gurley.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you know what? That was when Todd Gurley sat out the championship week.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So
Just
that,
for
that
I
was the
think
story.
that I
Dude.
got burned personally. On
See,
that.
that's what I'm saying. That's the thing is, you got to remember stuff like that. You got to remember like guys like Zeke, Russell Wilson. You got to remember that historically they've actually been very good until the playoffs and championship week, and then they kind of just go away. So like you only have to remember that part of it too. If somebody built an app, I'm telling you out there, steal this idea, do it, and then send me a link. You can have the idea as long as you make it so we can use it, right? So steal this idea, create an app where you can draft old fantasy leagues and then immediately get the results afterwards. Yes, Kev, I see you scroll. I know.
During the pandemic, they did that. Some people did that in baseball. You could actually draft a player draft a player from, you could only grab like the player for that specific year. So you couldn't get like, Greg Maddux, his great career. You had to pick a particular year for him, or
67 Bob Gibson. 68 Bob Gibson.
Yeah.
Let's go.
yes, exactly.
You gotta you pick Ted Williams, but you have to remember what years World War II was, so you don't
Brady,
get years that
Brady Anderson, 1996.
World War II, you're just throwing up zeros, but after he got out of the plane, he was good to go.
Throwing a zero.
It was like, okay, yeah, you won the Triple Crown after getting out of World War II.
Yeah.
And actually
That's
Korean
great.
War too.
I'll tell you,
Yeah,
twice.
that's right.
Scampers, Frank Gore was a safe pick, but there was a period where Greg Roman was the 4-year period where Greg Roman was the offensive coordinator for the 49ers, where he went from averaging, like, no joke, 55 catches a year down to like 17. So you got to watch out. The Greg Roman years were basically World War II for Frank Gore. Like you got to avoid those years. I mean, he was running pretty well still then, but not a lot of receptions.
I just want to say one thing. Coop, one of these days, I'm going to build an Andrew Cooper bingo card. And it's going to have it's going to have the Greg Roman, Frank Gore. It's going to have Brandon Huffman talking about Josh Downs.
Yeah.
It's going to have Tyler Higbee. It's going to have Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's going to have like all the Andrew Cooper tropes.
You got to play the
And we're
hits,
gonna fill
dude.
a card.
And the free square in the middle will be 2003 Randy McMichael. Right? Like that's the golden one, dude. Sometimes you got to play the hits. The thing about some of these stats, until they change, every once in a while there'll be a season where something happens and I have to throw away a stat, and it's so sad, dude. But that Randy McMichael one stands to this very day, which those unfamiliar,
That is
which
a
is why you got to
pillar
play
of
the
the
hits,
Andrew Cooper brand.
is every top 5 tight end going back to Randy McMichael in 2003 in PPR has had either 90 targets or 10 touchdowns. That stands over now. This is a 20-year anniversary, right? So that stands over 20 years. In half PPR, the COVID season for Mark Andrews, he had 88 targets, but he missed 2 games. We're still counting that. But in full PPR, that stands. Like, that's why we have these stats, because it helps us get a frame of reference. You look at a tight end and say, does he have top 5 in his range of outcomes? Well, he needs either 90 targets or 10 touchdowns. Simple as that. That's why we say it over and over again. Some people in this draft might have never heard that. So there you go, dude. Bingo, right? So that's why some things are worth saying twice. For Frank Gore, Greg Roman, World War II, not sure that needs to be said again, but it's been said now one time.
Just once. Look at Colby making his run on Texans back to back, Nathaniel Dale and John Mechie.
They broke in with the masks on. Yeah.
I was convinced he was going to snipe me for Chase Brown there.
Yep.
He was talking before. Agent.
Yeah, he was talking when he got off the stream about how he didn't have enough Texans, so you knew the run was coming before too long.
Chase Brown's value could go through the ceiling, right? So that is one that I'm interested in. Brett, you were gonna say something?
I was just gonna ask Jorge what he thought about Chase Brown. So yeah, we were right on the topic.
100% with Coop on this one. I look at him. I mean, gosh, he's one judgment away from being, one of the featured backs. At the very least, he's going to get the Samaje Perine work because he's going to get work in the passing game, and that could be interesting. That could be very interesting in that offense. I mean, I love that offense, especially. And then you got Week 17, Chiefs and Bengals. Ay Dios mío, that caliente.
We.
It's gonna be nice.
Todos los fines de semanas. Did I say? What does that mean? Every weekend?
Muy bien, muy bien.
Yeah, let's go, dude.
Dios
Fire
mío.
up the cervezas, brother. Let's go, dude. Tacos and chicas for everybody.
Coop, which one's yours?
My team is Sauce McFloss. I don't
Okay.
like having a username that's recognizable on this format, because then everybody steals my players. But
Like
see
we don't
Brett.
know that
Sauce
you're
McFloss.
Sauce McFloss.
you guys do. You guys do. But Tori, one thing I wanted to ask you that I actually don't know: who is your favorite NFL team? Like, obviously, you're an unbiased analyst, and you would never draft a bunch of Texans if you're a Texans fan like Colby does. But what's your team that you root for?
I'm a Rams fan going back to my youth. So
yeah.
even before they went on their 20-year journey into St. Louis desert.
That's awesome. So do you have any? It's a long time ago. Did you keep any gear from back then? My aunt she was a fan. My aunt became a fan because there were only like 2 channels, and they would put on like whoever the Giants were playing, and a lot of times it was even in Massachusetts, and she loved Roman Gabriel, so she became a Rams fan way back then. And she still has a bunch of the old Rams gear. So people were like, "Oh, that's sick throwback gear." And she's like, "Throwback? What's that?" Like, this is just like my LA Rams gear. You know? Do you have anything from back then still?
I wish I still had a Dickerson shirt that I had back in the day. Dickerson and Jack Youngblood were guys from my youth, and little Vince Ferragamo action too.
Nice.
Italian good-looking men did very well in Los Angeles during the 80s and 90s. Him and Piazza.
Oh yeah, Mike Piazza, man. Yeah, he's like the I do play some fantasy baseball. I used to write articles, believe it or not, but now I just play. But because I'm such like a tight end guy, I do have a soft spot for catchers that can like hit. So like Mike Piazza, like I have JT Real Muto on like every dynasty league. You know, like they're the type.
He's a big Mike Napoli guy.
Oh yeah, no question. Cool. He was Red Sox, baby. Let's go.
Wasn't they party at Napoli's house?
Yeah.
Oh,
Napoli, dude.
There's stories about the Napolis.
I've only seen Mike Napoli. I've seen him in 2 states. I've seen him on the field, and anytime I've seen him in Boston, he was not wearing a shirt. Like this dude, he pops. He was the kind of guy that pops the shirt off. Brad Marchand is also a shirt popper for sure.
A shirt
I
popper.
love it.
I just remember Mike Piazza because one of the very first games that we had for Sega was Tony La Russa's baseball. And I always started with Piazza and Daryl Strawberry.
Dude, Daryl Strawberry, my God. Half man, half drugs. He was one third man, 1/3 home runs, 1/3 drugs, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, when he cleaned himself up, he got himself a ring. That was good. You know, you guys were talking about catchers and tight ends. I feel like they're simpatico because it's like there's about that many good ones in each game. So it's like you clamor for the good ones, and then or you troll for the leftovers at that point. So I very much correlate the two.
It's exactly it's right. There's
the
such
two leagues and the 2 tight end leagues. That's why they're like those are the death knells of fantasy in their respective sports.
And the other part of it that's very similar is we're scrapping for like the cheat codes, like the guys that break it, right? Like Kyle Schwarber, who plays
Dalton Varsho,
Kyle Schwarber, like outfielders that play catcher, or like a Joey Votto, not Joey Votto. He's the first baseman, but who is the catcher for the Giants that would play first base on his days off from catching?
Oh, Buster Posey?
Buster Posey, Hall of Fame catcher. Yeah. That was a bit like he was so much better than everyone else because he would play every day, right? So it's like that's kind of like tight end with blocking, right? It's like some of these guys block so much that they might as well not be playing at all.
Funny story. When I was living in Syracuse in the early 90s, Carlos Delgado actually started out his career as a catcher. Played catcher for AAA Syracuse. And also Kenley Jansen, the closer for I believe the Braves now, was a catcher, and then they converted him.
Can I point something out here? screwed up so bad auto picking last round because I
Field.
needed Baker. I needed Baker here. I needed Baker because I took, or couple rounds ago, I took Leonard Fournette. I auto picked him. I needed Desmond Ridder so bad. I have both Drake London and Kyle Pitts. And in my mind, I was like, oh, well, now I'll take Desmond Ridder. It'll be funny or whatever. It'll be a nice little setup. And I auto picked. And then with that swing, I was like, oh, well, I'll just get Desmond Ridder right here. Right?
Because sniped.
And then he takes his third quarterback in Desmond Ridder. So thank you, Jay Bro. You are the man.
And a perfect question: do you like to stack all of your QBs if you can?
If you can.
You don't
Unless
you don't-
they're like rushing quarterbacks.
right.
I can deal with those naked, but yeah, for the most part, the stack's where it's at.
You said you want to see Russian quarterbacks naked, Brett?
That's the terminology in the industry.
So is that-
I didn't
or-
make it up. I just talk about it.
What Russian quarterbacks are there? Orlovsky? Well, I'm trying to think.
Oh my god.
God.
All right. So
No.
that's a smart joke. Okay. All right. So we got the final board here. Let's take a peek at some of these starts, right? We got a couple minutes before we wrap this one. If you could steal any 3-player start, Jorge, from these squads, who would you steal besides your own team, obviously? If you could steal somebody's squad. I know Patrick Mahomes got stolen from you.
Yeah, he got stolen from me. I really, Britt, those first 3 picks are yours. That's fun. That's fun.
Excited about it.
I'm liking that one. Okay, I gotta look at Colby because he sniped me a couple times.
Britt's got about 500 targets there. She's looking at.
And then Amari Cooper coming behind that. So I mean that's just fun. I love going receiver early in underdog drafts. Let's see, Kevin, which one's yours?
Here's
the thing. I actually got sniped out of being in the draft, so
okay.
I am just commentating and going to sauce all of these teams mercifully.
Oh, that's awesome.
If Kev, if I had to guess which team Kev would like best, it would probably be J-Bro, pick from the 1 spot.
100%.
Yeah.
Look, and I think didn't you do something about the wide receiver 2s on these teams? I would much rather have the Devontae Smiths and the T. Higgins in ultra condensed offenses, efficient offenses, than some of these wide receiver ones that are going. Like,
pull out your bingo. Pull out your bingo card, because this is a stat that I'm using a lot this year. Of the top 20 wide receivers, Jorge, of the top 20 last year, 10 of them came from only 5 teams. So there were 10 pairings in that top 20. The Eagles, the Bengals, the Seahawks, like a lot of these guys came from the same teams. That means that the other 10 came from 10 teams. 17 teams didn't have a single wide receiver in the top 20. I mean, that's math, baby. Like 17 teams. So when you look at it that way, why wouldn't we draft Devon? Like, you're getting the wide receiver 2 discount on these guys that are wide receiver 1s. Like, in what way is Devonta Smith not a wide receiver 1? He was getting 7-8 targets a game.
Right. He's better than 17 teams number 1. So
yeah,
that's more than
clearly
half the league right there. I'll take that day all day long. Chris Godwin, he's getting kind of like that wide receiver 2 treatment because he's going where a lot of those guys are. I mean, this guy, he's a year removed from his ACL, and I mean, he's going to be 150 targets on the season. He's going to be fun. Yeah. By the way, at some point, I'll tell you guys a Kenley after we get off. I'll tell you guys a Kenley Jansen story because I knew him when he was a catcher. A 19-year-old catcher.
Tell us now.
That's
perfect for on air, dude. Yeah.
Okay, so
of course, dude.
So 2006 to 2013, I was the publications director for the Dodgers, and it's a dream job. My hometown team, the team, because I became a fan of all sports, met all my childhood heroes. It was fantastic. So 2008, I'm going to spring training at Vero Beach. Last year, the Dodgers are at Vero Beach, and so I flew into Fort Lauderdale because there was no airport flying into Vero Beach. We either flew into Fort Lauderdale or Orlando. So I took a red eye to Fort Lauderdale. I get in and I'm of course red eyed, tired. The guy who came to pick me up, he said, "Oh, we've got to go to Miami to pick up a ball and pick up a minor leaguer." And I thought, "Oh man, Miami's an hour the wrong direction from Vero Beach." But I thought, you know what? play for the team. So I come up and see this kid, 19-year-old Kenley Jansen. I didn't know who he was. And I see him, and he spoke with a heavier accent than he does now, and he still has an accent now. Now that he's with the Red Sox, but I look at him and I'm just like, this guy just keeps going. I keep going up and up and up. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's huge. I said, what position do you play? And he goes, I'm a catcher. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So it was like a 3-hour ride to Vero Beach, having the best time, but I am just having the worst time trying to remember him, because first I thought he named because of his accent. I thought he said his name was Kelly Johnson. And I was like, okay, I'm very adept at who's in the minor league system. I do not know a Kelly Johnson. But he was so excited, first off, to be going to my spring training, because I think it was only like his third spring training. Oh, and he was a catcher, and he tells me, oh, last year I caught the best pitcher I ever caught in my life. This guy, have you heard of Clayton Kershaw? So that was 2007 Clayton Kershaw, his first full season in the minor leagues at single A ball somewhere in like Michigan or Iowa or something like that. Had the best time talking to him. He's from Curacao, talking about how Andrew Jones had just signed with the Dodgers, and he just thought it was the greatest thing, from the same country. But I'm just racking my brain saying, where do I know this kid? So get there, wish him the best, tell him to stay healthy, and I go straight to the front office and I grab the media guide, and I'm like trying to find, and I figure out his name was Kenley Jansen. I look up his name, and then I see catcher. Okay. Then I look at his batting average, 207, 190. You know, I'm like, I'm never going to see this guy again. Never going to see this guy again. A year later, they switch him to pitcher. Almost a year to the day after he made his minor league debut, he's pitching in the big leagues. And on his second game, he closes out a 1-0 shutout for Clayton Kershaw. And so, you know, and Kershaw was just like, that's my catcher. The very first time I ever pitched professionally, Kenley Jansen was my catcher. And now he just recently got his 400th save. And, you know, and from thinking back in, you know, February of 2008 that I was never going to see this kid again. And here he is, you know, he's on bubblegum cards and having a great time.
That's so cool, man. Not only did he, because I'm a Red Sox fan, so like Kenley's with us now. For a long time, he was with my aunt, Auntie Koopy's Dodgers. She's LA to death. But not only did he get his 400th save, he was throwing gas.
Yeah,
maybe he knew he had a little extra something in the tank. He was throwing 99 the other night, dude. He still got it, man. He's a big boy.
When he wants to, he can throw the gas. I think the gun might have been a little fast that day, but yeah.
No.
He was fit. He
was throwing 100.
He might have been extra jacked up because he was going for 400 saves, because he was famous for when he came into the Dodgers. Oh yes, Dame, you're so right, Dame, La Dama. Kenley, when he would be famous, his first pitch would almost always be like 89, 90 miles an hour, and then like his second or third pitch, he's back 93 to 95, and it's just like it was like another warm up pitch. But yeah, what a great guy.
Yeah, that's an amazing story, man. I'm sure you're loaded up with those Dodger stories.
Oh, yeah. you guys can wind me up any other time. So I try and save one. I try only use one at a time, so I don't blow them all.
Keep them in the bank. Yeah, bingo. That'll be Jorge bingo. We got one story out of you. We'll do the rest moving forward. I look through these teams. The one I like best, honestly, J-Bro picked a lot of players I love. He picked Jefferson, obviously awesome. He picked Smith and Higgins, which you get that discount. Miles Sanders is a guy I wrote a bunch of articles on. Michael Pittman, number one. He's just betting that the quarterback's going to be good, right? That he's getting the clear number one there. Cam Akers, we talked about today on the quick out. He finished last year with back-to-back 100-yard rushing. He could be the guy. I mean, like, the only thing I would have done differently is I would have taken Tua instead of Kirk Cousins or Daniel Jones. But I mean, I'm liking this team a lot. Pretty solid job by J-Bro. If you want to get in on these drafts with us and, you know, come into the chat, potentially come on the show, because we're going to do them on Better Sports Network, let people call in, do whatever, just get crazy with it. Make sure you do two things. One, go to Underdog, and either go to fantasyalarm.com/underdog or just go to Underdog, use promo code FANTASYALARM. They'll match 100% of what you put in up to $100. $20, they match 20. $100, they match 100. Personally, I match 100, trying to get as much bang for my buck as possible. Then make sure you're signed up for Fantasy Alarm for our website. We have a couple promo codes going right now. My personal favorite promo code right now, promo code COOP, COOP, gets you 50% off the next 6 months. And then you are all set up. You can get in our Discord where we talk about ball every day and we'll reset these up. All these people we're drafting with, the reason this draft is so hard is because they're all Fantasy Alarm members. They're all people we know. Jorge, obviously, we're going to have special guests like Jorge come in and join us, which makes it even more fun. So make sure you're all signed up for all that, and then you can hang out all season long, have a blast with us, and you won't miss the rest of these Dodger stories because we will get them out of Jorge. We will get them.
Happy to.
Yeah, the special guest, Jorge. I'm going to talk to you tomorrow too. So
Awesome.
Just good time, man. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody sniping me.
Thank you, man.
And go
I tell
Dodgers.
you, the family members, these drafts make me laugh so hard because it's like Hamburger. We got Hamburger in today. He took every other person I wrote an article about. He took like a ton of my boys there. Well, Sellers, who is now banned. I'm banning Sellers for 2 weeks.
He
So
deserves
it's-
it.
He
Well,
is Sellers
through
for
this- Looking through these drafts, I will say that Hamburglar is definitely a noted ageist. If there's a team that I would draft, I think
yeah.
that would probably be it. We're looking at just Anthony Richardson, Jordan Addison, Mingo, Kendrick Miller.
Mingo,
I have
Miller,
60%
yeah.
of like all those guys.
He took my boy Sam Laporta, who I really needed. He took Tajay Spears.
Yep.
I
I
know, he
had
took
Laporta
Tajay.
lined up there, and he sniped me.
Why can't he get the targets? So yeah, pretty disappointed I missed some of those guys, but that's what happens when you draft with sharp folks. And the thing is, doing these with us, $5, winner gets $50 or whatever. Now you go and turn around and you jump in Best Ball Mania 4 and you're drafting against doofuses and you could win $3 million. So these drafts are to help you get better at this, so you know when you need to draft guys, so that somebody at Fantasy Alarm can win $1 million the way Millionaire Mike did last year on DFS, and the way guys routinely do in our trophy section on the Discord. So, cheers, you guys! Thank you for helping us sort this all out. And Kev, you even though you didn't get to draft with us, you want to help us wrap this up, buddy?
Yeah, I will just say, with these drafts, definitely iron sharpens iron. So once this is like the perfect practice, like for not even just, best ball leagues, but going into your redraft, seeing how the ADP is, just getting a general overview of all this stuff, which is great. So again, Jorge, thank you so much, my friend, for coming on with us. Always great to chat with you and gab with you and get in the draft. Well, I didn't get to draft with you, but I'm sure we will sometime.
You know what? I'm doing some live drafts on Familia FFP, so I think you guys are going to get invites. So
sign me up, brother.
Can't wait. 100%.
It's good times.
All right. Well, Britt, Coop, anything else before we get out of here?
That's it
Take
for
us
me.
out.
All
All right. Well, I guess I'm going to be the one 2 nights in a row to say toodles.